Good morning, good afternoon. I know I can see some companies from Nigeria, so that's good morning for them. For my colleagues from East Africa, good afternoon. I hope you're all well. Sorry for the late start. We are 2 minutes into the time we should have started. But I'm happy to see you all. I'm sure there are several other companies still joining. My name is Mombi Maina, and I'm the Agribusiness Deal Room Lead at AGRA, Nairobi. And we are so excited that you will be joining us at the AGRF this year. And we want to ensure that your experience at the summit is fruitful, that you're able to engage sufficiently with the different investors that will be there, and that you come out with some good connections out of the summit. So the purpose of this webinar is really to just take you through how to engage with the investors during the summit, what sort of questions you can expect them to ask, what information they would likely be seeking, etc. And for you to also ask any questions ahead of the summit. So, if you have any questions that you've been having in your mind that are unanswered, my colleagues Cynthia and Benjamin are on the call, and they'll take us through how to engage with the investors. And then towards the tail end, we'll speak a little bit about the logistics, though I shared that in the email that was sent out to all of you. I think without much ado, perhaps we can just kick off with that section on how to prepare for the investor engagement. And then colleagues will join us later, we'll catch on. So once again, excited that you'll all be at the summit. We have now 70 SMEs registered. So this is only an eighth of who should be on this call, but we hope that most of them will be able to join us. In the interim, as we proceed, if you could just drop in the chat box your name, where the country you're from, and your phone number. We'll need your phone number so that we can easily reach you in the week, next week, when we as different people talk to us wanting to engage you. So over to you, Cynthia and Benjamin. Thank you.
Thanks, Mombi. And hi, everyone. It's great to have you all on this call, and looking forward to helping you participate in the deal room in a way that is very helpful to you and your businesses. So I'll start off with an introduction to myself, and then I'll hand over to my colleague Ben to do the same, and then we'll kick off from there. So my name is Cynthia Wangari, and I work with Cross-Boundary, which is the advisory, an investment firm that is based in Nairobi and that has been supporting AGRA with the matchmaking component of the deal room. And Ben and myself have been involved in helping companies to profile and helping in the matchmaking between different companies and investors. And we'll also be supporting companies and investors at the AGRF in September. So I look forward to meeting a lot of you in person and to helping you and your businesses in fundraising. Over to you, Ben.
Great, thanks, Cynthia. So my name is Benjamin Monyao. I work with Cynthia at Cross-Boundary, where we have been supporting AGRA for the last 4 years on the agribusiness deal room. So I'm really excited to learn more about your companies and how we can potentially support you to attract more capital and also grow your businesses. Thanks.
Great. I'm going to share my screen. We've created a short presentation that borrows heavily from what, so if any of you had joined our previous webinar where we talked about investment readiness, we covered a lot of the things that investors typically will look at when they're engaging with businesses who are fundraising. So for those of you that haven't previously participated in the Deal Room, it's a platform that allows investors, different stakeholders within the agriculture space in Africa to interact and to form relationships that are mutually beneficial. So we've been supporting with the matchmaking process between investors and SMEs. And the way that works is both the SMEs and investors fill out a profiling template, and a lot of you have already done so. And then you share it with us, and then we review that and compile that information, and then go on to share that information with investors. And then once investors show interest in any of the companies, then we will come in and try and sort of help to make that introduction and support you as you begin your conversations and leave it to you to progress forward with regular check-ins to see how things are progressing. So it's the deal room takes that structure, and the in-person deal room will also involve a lot of introducing different SMEs to investors that are interested in their business or their business model, with the hope that those conversations then progress to fundraise down the road. So as you prepare for the AGRF and for the deal room, the one important thing to understand is what the deal process looks like. So deals take a wide range of time before they close. Some deals take a shorter amount of time, of about maybe 5 months, whereas sometimes it takes a much longer time for deals to close, average at around 15 months, but it could be longer or shorter depending on, how aligned the SME and the investor are, and also very heavily dependent on how quickly an SME is able to churn over investor requests. So even post the initial introduction of the in-person meeting with the investors, going forward with the conversation is very heavily dependent on how responsive the SME is to the investor and how responsive they are to their request. So the deal room essentially is what this first stage is, which is the initial engagement. And in this stage is where the company will often strategize and come up with things like its business plans, look at, what do they need to grow, or whether or not they need to grow, how they need to grow, why, and what they need to grow in terms of capital. And then once that's clear to the SME and to the team that's strategizing that, then they will often go to the market to look for investors that will be able to support them to achieve those growth or expansion plans. And that will often involve developing some form of a teaser that can be shared with investors to evoke their interest. And so a teaser is just like a short document that kind of highlights, what the company is doing, what gap they're filling, what capital needs they have, etc. That then is shared out to investors to see whether they would be interested in the opportunity. And the profile that you filled, it kind of captures some of the information that we would have in the teaser, so it's good that you fill that out. But not to preempt the rest of the presentation, but that's kind of what happens in this stage for the SMEs. On the other hand, what happens with the investors at this stage is that they're looking for a pipeline of businesses to invest in. And so they'll go out and scan the market to develop a pipeline of companies that fit their criteria. And then they'll go on to do further due diligence down the road to ensure that, this company is actually a good fit for them and that the business case makes sense for them. So at this stage, though, is where the investors will be doing sourcing. And because the interests of these two companies are aligned at this stage, this is where the deal room comes in and tries to provide a market for the funds that are looking for capital providers and providing a pipeline of opportunities for the investors that are sourcing for deals. So as you prepare for the development and as you prepare to have those conversations with investors, it's very important that you as an entrepreneur fully understand your business and fully understand your ask. And some of the questions that we've put here are meant to help you understand or help you think about what things you need to understand as you prepare for conversations with investors. So these are kind of the same sections that you typically have in a different document called an investment memorandum that we also covered in the webinar that we did on investment readiness, and which we can share with you post this call. But you need to be able to kind of have an elevator pitch for your business. So something that, you know, a short couple of sentences that talks about what you and your business do and what you've achieved. And the point of that is to spark initial interest in the investor so that they want to continue with that conversation. And then post that introduction, you'll probably have a deeper discussion focusing on a lot of the questions that are often very important to investors. So some of that could be them asking you about what problem is it that your business is trying to solve, right? What is the size of the market? Who are your customers? And you need to clearly articulate, or you need to be able to clearly show that there is a problem in the market that you're trying to solve for, and clearly show that, you know, that problem is existing, and that just kind of to show what the importance of your business is to solving that problem. And that kind of preempts the second bucket, which is, you know, solution and impact. So you've identified that there is you've been able to communicate that there is indeed this gap. So you need to also be able to articulate how your business is looking to solve this problem that you identified. And you need to be clear enough to show the linkage between your problem, your business's solution and that problem. Another thing that you need to be able to clearly communicate is what the competitive landscape is for the business that you're in. So it's good for you to in advance have a good sense of who your competitors are and what your competitive advantage is over these competitors in the market. So this will allow you to continue to build on your business case and show how, for example, whereas there are other products or solutions that are targeting the problem that you have highlighted, your business has a different way of approaching the problem that could be more profitable, and showing why that business model that you're pitching to the investor makes sense. Another bucket that now focuses more on what you ask from the investor is kind of looking at your business structure. So you've talked about this problem, you've talked about your solution, you've talked about how your solution is innovative in comparison to your competitors' solutions. So you need to, if possible, be able to articulate, you know, so has this translated in the market now that you've been operating? How has this model, you know, translated on the actual market? Be able to, at least on a high level, talk about what your historical revenues have been, what your future or forecasted revenues are, and what that's pegged on, how you're performing on different profit metrics. And yeah, just communicating that, you know, that solution that you developed to solve the problem indeed does have an actual business case and translates into sales on the actual ground. It's also important for you to be able to communicate, you know, who the team is behind the business, and that's often an important thing for investors, because they will be investing in the team that is going to grow this business. They're going to be investing in the team that has a vision. And so it's important for you to be able to articulate or to communicate that you have a strong team that is running this business. And if you can, just like highlight their experiences, highlight their backgrounds, and things like that, that show that they are in fact able or have the capacity to drive the business forward. And then another thing that needs to be very clear to you as you have those conversations with investors is having a proper sense of what your ask from them is. So you have this business that has incredible business traction, you've got a strong management team behind that. So what is it that you're looking for from the investor? And so to answer this, you need to have a clear understanding of what your business needs are. So firstly, what is it that so if you're talking to a capital provider and seeking capital, you need to have a clear sense of why you need that capital. Is it for expansion? Is it to hire more people? Is it to support your working capital? So just like understanding why you need the capital is an important part of the conversations that you have. And because as you articulate those needs, also having an understanding of, okay, so these are the needs of my business, these are the things that my business needs in order to grow, to progress, then how much therefore how much money or how much capital do I need in order to achieve these objectives? And as you think about how much money you need, it's also important to think about what type of capital that you're seeking. So is it equity that you're seeking, or is it debt, or is it some form of blended instrument? It's very important that you have that understanding before you go and have those conversations with investors, because it will come up and it's an easy filter to see whether you're aligned or you fit some of their criteria. And so as you kind of talk about, what your capital raise plan is, it's also usually helpful to highlight what your previous experience with fundraising. So if you raised capital from other investors before, it could be a good way to show that, your company has in the past gone through some form of due diligence and been successful, or been vetted by a different investor who ended up investing. So it could be helpful to build in your case. So, like I said, the investment process is a long one, and it varies in length of time. And at each stage of the transaction process, there's different documentation that you need. But focusing on this, again, this initial engagement section, which is what essentially the deal room is. Here, some of the documents that you typically need are an investment teaser and an NDA. So maybe for the deal room, not maybe, you probably will not be signing NDAs at the actual forum, but a document that may be helpful for you to have prepared beforehand, that you can, send over to the investor, even at the deal room, or share a physical copy of, could be an investment teaser. And so, like I said before, a teaser is just, it's a short document that captures all of the crucial information about the company and its fundraise. So it should be very concise and cover all of the key points that you're trying to drive home with the investor. And some of those things include investment highlights, like talking about, what your company's market position is, what your partnerships are, what your sales net. So a lot of the things that I had covered before, but in a very concise manner. And also kind of talking about what the company actually does. So giving a brief description of the company and its products. It could have things like, the geographic location of the company, who your customers are, or who your potential customers could be that you're targeting. Some other information that would be helpful to have in the teaser is information about the deal. So specifically within the transaction, looking at, or just specifying what kind of, what amount of capital you're raising, what is it for, what kind of capital. And usually it's also helpful to include some form of summary financial information. So it could be maybe 3 to 5 years of historical data and projected financial information, just to show the business traction or to show the traction of your business over the past, and to show what you anticipate growth to look like in the future. So I've also included like a sample, and again, I could share this around post this presentation, but I've included a sample of what a teaser could look like. It could take multiple shapes or forms, but this is just kind of like an example of what a teaser would look like. So like I said, it has a company overview talking about when the company was established, what the company does, how it's contributing to sustainability or to technology advancement. etc. would be some of the things that would be good to highlight here. Just giving an overview of who the management team is, and what their roles are, giving some form of financial insights into, you know, what your fundraising or what your capital needs are and what the use of those funds are, talking about the market opportunity. And here you would just be highlighting kind of the gap that you're seeing in the market. And if you have a value that you could use to depict that, that would be great to include here. Talking about your competitive advantage. So just like we had talked about before, giving deeper insights into how your company is able to differentiate it against its competitors, and then kind of a snapshot of what historical information has looked like and what growth for your company looks like. So to wrap it all up, I would just encourage all of you to go through at least this list of questions and have clear answers to them in your mind, so that if the questions do come up, you're able to articulate them in a clear and concise way. And it's not to say that investors will necessarily have like a questionnaire there and ask you each of these, but they are the ones that will most likely come up in your discussion. And that your ability to show that you're able to answer these questions well would give an investor a lot of confidence in you as the entrepreneur and in your understanding of the business. I'll pause there for questions.
Cynthia, as you pose for questions, is it possible to expand this slide that has the example of the investment teaser?
Yeah.
I'll also just try and read out the questions in the chat. A couple of people could not hear clearly, so we will share the presentation and the recording. So there's a question on capital. Should I state what is being offered as the award or what my business needs, which could be more or less? That
what is being offered
by whom? Yeah. So Esther, we structured this call as a meeting so that we can all just talk to each other. So Esther, please unmute and just ask your question freely, so that we are clear on what you're asking.
But maybe just to as needs. So it's in terms of capital, you should have an understanding of what your business needs, because that's what you're asking for from the investor. So have know what you need your funds, what you need funds for, and then size that out to see how much money you actually need, and then that would be what you're going to request from the investor.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Cynthia has shared, beyond even the amount, and I think she mentioned it as she was presenting, is also what the amount will be used for. That's an important bit of information to have at the tip of your tongue. The amount and what you intend to use the fundraise amount for. I see a hand raised by Elias. Elias, please unmute. Feel free to ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Elias from Nigeria. I would like to know if we'll be required to have done like evaluation before we come around, just to get a sense of the equity that we're willing to give out. Is that important at this phase, or is something that can wait till later?
So for, at least for the, as you go to the deal room, whereas it's not kind of like a requirement for you to have done an actual valuation as you have in the initial conversations with investors, it would be helpful for you to have done it and say that, you know, we've actually done a valuation, we have a valuation model, we have like that we've done that we could share. So let me just circle back to kind of what the deal process looks like and where the different documents come in. So whereas it may not necessarily be required at this stage, you would need to have a financial model to continue to, as the discussions with your investors progress. So post the teaser, if the investor shows interest in your business, what typically will happen is that they'll sign a non-disclosure agreement and then ask you to share more detailed information with investors. And the reason we sign the NDA is because some of these are typically very confidential for the companies, but then they're an important part of due diligence for the investor. So if you can have a sense of, you know, or yeah, if you can have it before, then it would be great, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary at this stage. But if you are raising equity, then it's good for you to have a sense of, depending on the valuation of your company, if you're raising and say X amount of US dollars in equity, what that means in terms of ownership for you. So if your business is valued at, for example, $10 million, and you're seeking $5 million in equity, then that means that you'll be giving up 50% of your business. So it's also, a valuation would be helpful for you to understand, for you to be able to understand what capital type makes sense for you, even as you're making the request. So for example, if you're not willing, or if giving out 50% of your company doesn't make sense with that time, then you could look at other alternative capital types, for example, debt. So it's at this stage, whereas the investor may not ask for it from you, it would be helpful in also helping you as the enterprise understand what your capital ask means for your business.
Thank you.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
Thank you for your presentation. It's really been helpful. I just wanted to find out if it's possible for you to share the PowerPoint that you're using for your presentation with us.
Yeah, I can share it. I can share this presentation around post this call, and then what we can also share is we did a full presentation on investment readiness and talked about developing some of this material. So in that particular discussion, we talked about developing an investment memorandum, and a lot of the thinking behind that is what you need in order to answer some of the questions that investors will raise. So we can share with this and in that presentation as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Cynthia.
Go ahead, Farida.
Okay, I just wanted to know, I don't think we'll be able to meet all the investors. So is there a way that the investment teaser that we'll be developing will be shared with all the different investors? So we make sure that people that may be interested at least can see the documents from the company?
So I think what I would, For the teaser, maybe not, but we could share typically what we do is share a summary of the profiles that you've sent out, or the profiles that you've already populated, and then when investors show interest, we make that introduction. But for SMEs, as you look for kind of which investors to prioritize speaking to, it would be helpful for you to go through the list of the investors that are participating in the deal room and see which ones are properly aligned with your business. So as opposed to reaching out to everyone, having a more targeted approach to what investors you want to speak to would be more helpful.
If I may follow up, because some of the investors like just focus on a certain region. For example, so we don't especially know, for example, I'm from West Africa, so I don't know which investor will be interested in the West African market. So I think at your hand, it's something maybe that you have. So is it an information maybe that we can have ahead of a meeting so we know which we should be talking to, to help us, guide us where we should go to meet which investors?
Yep, so we could share the profiles of the investors that we profiled for the 2021 deal room. Mommy, maybe you can, I don't know if it would be possible to share a list of the investors that will be attending.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, they're on our website. So I will just drop the link in the chat box here of the 2021 investors. And then closer to the date, once we have the full registration list, then we will have a better indication of the full list of investors that are physically attending the summit. And Farida, to your question on whether we will hand out the teasers to all the investors, I think there are a couple of opportunities that we've provided for SMEs. One is for you to be able to exhibit during the week. So the day that you're exhibiting, that or in itself is a platform for you to be, if you can print out some of your teasers and come with them, so you can hand them out to people interested in your company. The second is we have been asking for your profiles because we'll be putting together a deal booklet that shows that gives an overview of your company. So it's not as detailed as the teaser, but it gives a good enough summary for an investor to pick interest. And so for those for the booklets, we will be sharing them out to all the investors at the summit. And we'll also have it up online for wider reach. So please do print out, come with printouts of some material that you can distribute at the summit itself. But again, the link to the capital providers we had in 2021 is in the chat. Please visit that link, and then we'll also update on the companies that have confirmed to be at the summit. Again,
Okay,
if they're not confirmed to be at the summit, Farida, if you find a company, if you find a company on there and they're not coming to the summit, we're still able to reach out to them. So you can flag that and say, this is one that you'd be interested in. We're doing the same with SMEs. For some SMEs that will not be able to come to the summit, we'll also be sending them to the broader group of investors. So it's the relationship doesn't start and end at the AGRF week itself. That's just one space. It's a great space because you're physically there, the investor is physically there, but then we continue to put your profile in front of investors even beyond the AGRF Summit week. Elias, you're asking for someone to paste the link. What link?
The link to the past investors. I missed it, sorry.
Okay, sure. I've pasted it again. It's in the chat. Not Farida, Precious. I see your hand up.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mumbi. It's
Good
nice.
afternoon.
It's nice being here meeting with you. I heard you make mention of exhibition during the program, the event, and I would love to ask, are we going to exhibit some of our products that we are producing in the company? Can we come over there with some of our products? And is it also necessary to come with maybe a flex or maybe roll a banner showing our company and what we do? And then the material you're talking about, can we print something like our flyers? Or maybe come with our brochure, product brochure of a company? And is that what you mean by exhibiting? This I just want to understand.
Yes. Okay. So what we are doing is we will have just small spaces so that we give every SME an opportunity to have a space where, as people are coming by, investors, development partners, because there's so many partnerships you can build at the summit. They can come and talk to you, know more about your business, know more about you as the founder, etc. Now, this space is not will not be sizable. It will be a small space because we are trying to fit everybody in. But it should be enough for you to have a roll-up banner there. It will have a desk or a pallet box for you to put some flyers and some materials of your company. So please feel free to bring that. In terms of produce, if if your company is packaging certain foods, for now, I'd recommend having very minimal of it that you bring in. We're still trying to confirm from the Rwandan authority what clearance we need for you to come into the country with that. So until we get that clearance with the exact quantities, what's allowed, disallowed, I would just encourage that you just carry 1 or 2 packs of whatever it may be, so that we don't, you're not ending up to having to leave anything at the airport. But yes, anything that you can use to communicate your business in a small, not too big space, kind of like the space that you're in right now, Precious,
Yeah.
will be good.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I see a question from Frashia. Is there an opportunity of matched financing? Okay, so what do you mean by matched financing? Who's matching? Who and who are matching here in this case?
Thank you very much. My name is Frecia from Jufra Food Processors. I hope I've given it the right name. Is where you get, you can possibly do a 50% and you're given a grant of 50% of what you require in your business.
Yeah, okay. So for the deal room, for the most part of the deal room, we support commercial finance and not so much grant financing. But at the summit, there will be development partners who are then who then most of the time then give the grants. So partners like AGRF and others, Nourish in Africa and the likes. And so those are the partners that you would ideally be targeting. Earlier on, Cynthia was mentioning being a bit more targeted to the investors that you reach out to. So if you're looking for matching finance, if you're looking for grants, not commercial, not a loan or equity, a grant, then it would be best to try and target development organizations, foundations, and other types of NGOs to meet with for such opportunities. Yeah. And they will be there at the summit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We can take a few more questions. We still have about 20 minutes. If you do have any additional question, please ask it now before you travel.
Okay, I have another one. This is still fresher.
Okay.
In the presentation, Cynthia talked about historical revenue and the cash flow positions. For some that are a bit new, because we, like us, we are just completing our second year. We have not been having very, very nice, cash flow records for a long time. So we don't have a long history. What would you advise? We're just completing 2 years.
Yeah. Okay, so just in case your camera on, so go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you have whatever years of information you have, I think is a valid data point. I think the key thing is to be able to show that your business is making traction. So you've been operating for 2 years, and in year 1, you made X amount of revenue. In year 2, you make it Y, because this is just showing that we're new and we're seeing the traction, and we think we can continue to build on this traction over the long term. So just to say that whatever amount of data that you have could be powerful in helping you still build your business case and show your company's traction.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So there's a question in the chat, Cynthia. What ROI is needed to get investors interested, and what is perceived as a good ROI for agro-processing in agriculture in Africa?
I don't have a figure for that, if I'm being honest. I think for given a lot of the businesses here are probably younger, I think what would be, again, most helpful is to show that clear business case and show that clear path towards growth, and be able to show your business's traction in a way that makes investors comfortable that if it's debt, you're going to pay them back, and if it's equity, they're going to ultimately have an exit. So to be honest, I don't have a clear, I don't have a number that I can give you in terms of ROI, but I think at least for the conversations that you have with investors, it's unlikely that they'll ask you that now. Maybe as your conversations progress and you move on to develop financial models that can then inform what ROI your business, or what ROI the investors feel your business would be able to generate, and whether that's aligned with their expectations. But for now, it's unlikely that they'll ask you that at the deal room, but it's good for thinking about as you develop your financial model for future discussions.
Yeah, and maybe just to add, the deal room has a really wide range of investors with different appetites, risk appetites, and different motivations to invest. And so on the risk appetite, there are investors that are that are interested in coming in very early on. So when your business is still young, and young both by age and also by what your revenue numbers are. And then there are others who are very, very clear that they are only coming in when you can demonstrate ability to repay. If it's debt, that they will come in with a senior debt position, meaning they get the first payout of repayments if you have multiple investors that have given you debt, etc. So the appetites are different. There are companies at the deal room that have received, to your question, Frashia, there's a company at the deal room that received their first investment as a grant from an investor. So there are those ones as well. And then on motivations, there are investors that are social impact investors. And so they're driven not just by the financial return on investment, but also the social return. So, and I think that's why Cynthia, was struggling with a hard number to give, because we have such a wide range, sort of catering for different types of companies, whether early stage or later stage companies. Yeah. So the important thing here is to just be able to articulate your business. Actually, one of the most important things is how you present your business, how you're able to speak about it. So just know your numbers, know what the market potential is in the market you're operating in, know other players that are in that market, so you're able to confidently speak about your business, speak about it. You're able to sell it, because that's the first step. You capture them that way with very, you're hitting all the spots with numbers, with data, and then now you just want to capture them there and then get them now to come in and look deeper towards investment. So that's the objective really that we want you to achieve during the week. I think I saw Benjamin Babel. I don't know if you wanted to add anything. If you do, please, before we take Precious's hand.
No, nothing to, I wanted to say exactly what you said, so nothing else to add.
Okay. Precious, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Please, I have 2 questions to ask. Number one is, looking at the peculiarity of my business, I'm into agriculture and we are producing agri-inputs and then hybrid crops, and we are equally into value chain production. Do you think that there are companies or there are investors who will appreciate what we are doing? It's like everybody is going into food, like food processing, maybe ITC and all that. But I am in a different environment because that's what I'm passionate about. Do you think that I'll be able to attract any investor to my company? That's number one. Number two is I want to make a plea. Please, can Cynthia please share a template of the financial teaser or the investor's teaser? I would love to go through, I would love to learn from there and then put up something better, please. Thank you.
Okay, Cynthia, you'll answer to that request, but I believe it's a yes, but I don't want to speak on your behalf.
On the presentation, you've included that snapshot of like an example of a teaser that you could maybe use that as a basis as point for the one you create for yourself. So kind of like it's not a template, but you could look at that example that we've given, which is essentially a sanitized teaser, and then fill in your company's information according to that.
Yeah, and then to your first question, Precious, are there investors that are interested in the part of business that you're operating in? I would say yes. Okay, so we see a lot of interest on the side of value addition and processing, so the upstream operations of the value chain from post-production. Not such high interest in production itself, but I wouldn't classify you as production because you're not in the farm growing, you're not looking for farming investment. It's still in value addition, but on the input side. And so there is interest there. And I think especially now with the conversations of climate change, or farming organically, more responsive environmental consciousness, and the biggest story today of fertilizers, there's a space that you can come in, and those are the angles you would be pitching it from, just showing the direction you're trying to take agriculture towards, to counter the looming food crisis. even in a small way, in a grand scheme of things, that would be my pitch, because you operate in a niche, and it's a niche that everybody is aware is required, and also recognizes that is expensive to operate in. It's like the renewables. So I think be confident that there are investors that would definitely be interested in that space. There is a company that will also be coming, and what they do is similar. They recycle human waste and make fertilizers and animal feed, not animal feed, fertilizers from that. And they're raising money. They're actually raising their third round of financing. So there's definitely investors that are interested in such spaces. Yes. And then I see Katie's hand. I'll take Katie, then I'll take Frashia. So did you have a follow-up question, Precious?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Katie, please go ahead.
Hi, just wanted to find out. In my case, I'm into fish. So I wanted to find out more if maybe, say, instead of equity, I go for a loan. Will the funders be there? What is required? And will it be tied to collateral?
Yeah.
And like, how many years do they give it for? If you say you're going to get a loan, how many years would they give me, and how much do they give up to?
Yeah, so they're different. They're different. We have the financial institutions, the common banks, and so let me start by saying all the debt providers, Benjamin, you'll tell me if there's an exception. I haven't seen one yet. We'll all ask for collateral. What might differ is the amount that they ask you to collateralize. But for the most part, the minimum I've seen so far is 40% of the loan that you're asking for. So they will ask for collateral. The term, the tenure of the debt financing, there are some investors that are more patient than others. So the very pure commercial ones, like the bank, CTC, it will be a risk-rated tenure, usually 12 months to 12 to 24 months. For a few of the others that are funds that have what would be called blended finance, so they have like public capital that has been put to them to help subsidize, they can be a bit more patient and go to about 3 to 4 years to repay the loan. So it depends. There isn't, again, because we have a wide range of investors. We have the banks, and then we also have the funds. It depends on who it is that you talk to and what it is that you're interested in. Whether you want a long tenure, then if you want long tenure, try and get the funds and not the commercial banks. If you're okay with a shorter tenure, then the commercial banks might be more suitable. The other thing that is important for you to look out for as you're talking to the funds is the currency that they will give you the debt in. So sometimes the funds are more favorable on everything else, but they'll give you the debt in hard currency, so dollars or euros. And you're operating in whatever your local currency is. So you have to keep converting to repay. Makes the debt quite expensive. So you also have to weigh the pros and cons of both sides and look at your business, where it's at, and what you want the money for, and then go for the right sort of funder. Yeah, Benjamin?
Yeah, I think spot on, Mudi, on that. What I could add is for the tenor, you need to look at how much you're comfortable paying for the period of that loan and push for it to be broken down to that will determine how long you'll pay that loan for. So if looking at your cash flow, you're able to pay, let's say, $10,000 per month. If you have a very short tenor, then you might be required to pay $50,000. So it's so looking at that, how much are you able to pay per month or per quarter, and just be clear with the person providing or the company or the firm providing the debt that this is what you can handle, so that you don't end up in issues afterwards. So it's a discussion that you need to have with where you're getting the funds from, but you also need to be very careful not to be in a position where you're not able to pay that debt.
Yeah. Thank you,
you.
Benjamin. Prashia, I saw your hand, and then Julius, I've seen your question. I will raise it.
Yes, thank you. Thanks you. Once again, I have two more questions. One is maybe looking at myself. I'm looking at the investments that I have done. I have quite some innovations that have increased my capacity, and I realize that right now I may require serious market linkages. I don't know whether there will be any, I don't know whether I'll be able to benefit from such linkages, because I feel that if I'm able to access good markets for my products, which are a bit new in the market, then it will be easy for me to even go into debts and such deals. That is one. The second one is that as we are scheduling maybe when to get into the agribusiness deal rooms, does one have to be boxed into when the investors are looking at a country? Like personally, I'm from Kenya, and there is in the program something investment in Kenya. Do I have to be there or any other? Then I want you to kindly say something more about hard currencies versus local currency. What would you advise? What is your advice on that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prashia. I'm going to answer your questions. I want Benjamin, before he drops off, to respond to Julius's question, because Benjamin will have to drop off at 3. Benjamin, Julius's question is, what's your advice for a new business investment? So he's an ongoing business, but wants to fundraise for verticals. So for the new business lines, what's your advice in terms of when he's pitching? Should he add on the existing business lines and use that to strengthen his pitch?
Yeah, thanks, Mubi. Yeah, I think that's a tough question, and it's usually case by case basis. But what we have seen is, one, you do not want to appear as unfocused or distracted by too many things to an investor or to someone who you're asking them to give you their money to grow. So there is that element that plays a big factor where they would like to see you focused on either growing the business that you are pitching until to a certain stage where they can clearly see that you need or you have opportunities to grow other verticals. So it's something that it could be value adding if you mention it, but it can also just play against you if an investor starts thinking that you just started, you are like 2 years old, or you are making very what they would consider small revenue, and you're already looking at other things. So I think the preference is if you can focus to grow the business, that one vertical or one area, to a point where you can venture into the other things. That is usually desirable for most investors, where they can see you're focused and now you've reached somewhere where the other opportunities are obvious for you to link into your current business.
Yeah. Okay, so Benjamin, thank you. I know we have to let you go, and we are now 1 minute over time. So let me respond to Prashia's questions, and then we can continue to engage through email. For everyone else, if you have questions that linger on, please feel free to drop an email to Kennedy, who's on the call, and he's been communicating to all of you, and he'll be able to support you. Okay, so Frasha, to your question, the first one on market linkage, we have been developing our pillar on market linkage, but for now, how we've developed it is linking SMEs to the larger private sector. So I'm not sure if the market linkage, and I suspect the market linkage you're looking for is linkage to customers, the end line customers at retail. So right now we haven't built out that level of market linkage. What we are working on is linking you as an SME to maybe supply to Unilever, to EABL, to the bigger market player. So that sort of linkage. If that's something you're interested in, please just drop me a note so we can add you as one of the companies that we are putting together for that platform. To the question on whether you're boxed into the country investment sessions, no. So what those country investment sessions are is we provide for governments to showcase investment opportunities in the country. And for some governments, they will have a mix of having some SMEs that they've selected come and speak, live pitching to a room of investors, and then also they pitch the national priorities. So that's what those sessions are for. They're really government sessions. Most of the time, the government comes and promotes agro-industrial parks or special agro-processing zones. Should you be there? Absolutely, you should be there. You won't be pitching your business there, but you should be there so that you can hear what opportunities exist in your countries. For Kenya, for example, because you mentioned you're from Kenya, they'll be pitching the land commercialization initiative, which is parcels of land they've set aside for private sector, including local private sector, to lease at low costs and with fiscal incentives. So, some rebates on taxes on inputs if you're importing inputs, etc. So I encourage all of you to attend your respective country sessions during the week. I think you'll learn a lot about the opportunities. Many times the opportunities are in our countries and we don't know about them. It will also allow you to engage with your ministry representatives who will be there speaking about these opportunities. So I think, Frasha, I feel like there was a third question. Please remind me in case I missed it, but those are the two questions I recall.
Thank you very much. It was the hard currency versus local currency.
Yes. So the hard currency versus local currency. Now, a lot of the investors that are not local, so, if you're getting funds from, if you're getting finance from a fund that is funded by European Union or that is funded by the Dutch government, most of the time they'll give you that debt in their currency, not in the local currency. So if you're in Kenya, they won't give you the money in Kenya shillings. The terms of the agreement will not be in Kenya shillings. It will be in euro or in dollars. This they do to hedge against currency fluctuation risks. The implication to you is that when you're repaying that debt, you have to pay it in that currency. So if you got it in dollars, you have to pay back in dollars. If you're a company that is exporting, it's not, it would not be a negative implication because you're earning your business revenue in foreign currency. So you already have that currency at hand to pay off the debt. If you're a company that's operating locally, the money you're making it in local currency, meaning you have to then convert that currency into the hard currency, euro, dollar, or whatever foreign currency it is, so that you pay back that debt. What that means in the long run, if you were a local company operating locally and not earning foreign currencies, is that you'll get this debt at maybe 8% interest, but what you'll end up having paid over time will be much higher because of the currency exchange losses you will incur on your part. So that's the implication of the hard currency conversation. We have in the advocacy conversations we have as the deal room, which is part of what we do, not just connecting SMEs to investors. We also drive a lot of advocacy. We've been pushing a lot for funds to relook at their model of lending in hard currency. So now we are seeing a few more funds that can finance you in your local currency, especially if you come from a country where there's some stability of your money, of your currency. But for the most part, most of them are still lending in hard currencies. Yeah. Okay. So I think we can talk the whole afternoon, so many questions, but please, just feel free to drop an email. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the AGRF. If you have not booked your slot for exhibition, I think we are closing today, so please book it now. If you have not yet registered, please drop an email to Kennedy so that we are aware and we can see how to support you. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you all at the AGRF next week. Enod, we are at 3:08, but I'll take one question.
Can I speak?
Thank you very much. My question is about, you talk about the lenders. Why we are looking for investors?
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
Okay. So the investors at the deal room are made up of different categories. We have investors that are interested in giving in equity investments. So they give you money in exchange for a share of your business. We have investors that are giving debt investments. So these are the lenders, and this is not just banks. This is also non-bank debt funders. So they give you money with an interest rate that you pay back like a normal loan. And then we have others that can give you a mix of the two. So the sort of financing you can get at the deal room, there are very many options. What we don't actively support is grants. And I have to be clear on that we're not actively supporting SMEs to acquire grants. But even as I say that, I think Frashe is the one who asked the question, or Esther asked the question earlier, Esther, is that there'll be development partners at the summit, and these partners are the ones who operate in the grant making space. So if that's what you're looking for, then you want to target development partners and not investors. Yes, so that for us, investors means the people giving debt, the people giving equity, the people giving things in between. You can find an investor giving you a partial grant, partial loan. That's still an investor to us. So they come in different shapes and forms at the deal room. Thank you. Okay, so let us close here. Thank you so much. And again,
sorry, just a quick question. The investors, do we only access them at the deal room, or will they be there at the summit?
They'll be there at the summit. There'll be some who will be there at the summit. There are some who may not make it, but we'll still send the profiles to them. But there are several investors, quite a number, that will be there at the summit.
I wanted to ask a question. I wanted to ask a question on etiquette. Can I go ahead, please? I wanted to ask a question on etiquette, and I wanted to know, is there any special dressing code? We've not been to Rwanda like Miss. I don't know. Is there any special dressing code that is expected of us, or we can just come there just a normal dressing? Is it official?
Come dressed to sell your business. Yeah, so there's no official dressing code, but what I would say is, of course, it's a meeting with the leadership. So, you have presidents, there, ministers, you have CEOs, your CEOs yourselves. So you want to dress and look the part. So that's what I would recommend. If it's African dress is always formal. If it's not African dress, then maybe you might want to have it a bit formal. There's a question that somebody asked, and I'll just talk about it and then I'll close for sure now, in how the meetings will take place. And I think Katie's question was also somewhat related to that. So a couple of ways. We have the deal book that I mentioned that we will be sending out to investors. Investors can then look through and say, oh, I've seen Delish Nutri company, for example, and I'd like to meet them. And we'll have a desk where the investors can let us know, I'd like to meet this company. And that's why I was asking for your phone numbers, because then we would need to reach you and tell you, this investor would like to meet you. We need to schedule a meeting for you at this and this time. We have tables for the meetings to take place. So that's one way. The second way is, as you're interacting in the summit, you might meet an investor. You get talking over lunch or at whatever opportunity, and they get interested. You come to us again at that desk and say, please book us for a meeting at this and this time. Book us a table. We'll book you a table to have that meeting. The third is, we'll have an app that for the event, and you'll all go on that app. And so you can request investors directly yourselves for meetings through that app, and vice versa. They can request for meetings with you. Once you do that request, again, you'd come to that table and say, you have a meeting that has been accepted. Can we book you a table? So there'll be different ways that you can secure. We will help to facilitate, but you will also be able to do it yourself. Okay, so with that, before someone remembers another question, let me say good afternoon and good evening to all of you. I really look forward to seeing you there. I see familiar faces. They can tell you how well you support them. Angela, I see your name there. So you'll also meet some of the SMEs we had from the previous years that we've walked the journey with. It's a journey. Please remember that. People don't close deals in 6 months. It takes even 12 months, even years, but we commit to walk in that journey with all of you. Thank you and goodbye.